The space station was busy that morning. Thousands of beings walked through the wide halls. Most of them were tall, very tall. The Valari people stood at 7 feet or more. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were large and silver. They moved with grace, like dancers floating through water among all these giants. One figure stood out because he did not stand out at all. Taiho walked through the crowd, and nobody looked at him twice. He was human, 5 feet and 4 inches tall. Black hair cut short. A simple gray jacket over a plain shirt. He carried no visible weapons. He looked like someone's assistant or maybe a delivery worker. That was exactly how he wanted to look. Taiho checked the address on his small device and walked toward the upper district. The buildings here were beautiful. Glass and silver towers reached toward the station's artificial sky. Wealthy families lived here. Important families. The kind of families that made enemies. He stopped in front of a large door. 2 Valari guards stood on either side. Each one was nearly 8 feet tall. All. They wore armor and carried energy rifles. They looked down at Taiho like he was a lost child. "I am here to see Lady Yuna," Taiho said. His voice was calm and quiet. The guards exchanged a look. One of them laughed. "You? What business does a human have with the lady? I am her new protector." Both guards laughed now. The sound was loud and mocking. One of them bent down to look at Taiho more closely. "Little human, I think you have the wrong address. The lady requested a real protector, not a pet." Taiho did not react. His face showed nothing. He simply pulled out a small card and held it up. The card glowed with an official seal. The guards stopped laughing. They recognized the seal of the Protectors Guild. It was one of the most respected organizations in the galaxy. "Check with your lady," Taiho said. "She will confirm." The guards looked uncomfortable now. One of them spoke into a communication device. A moment later, the door opened. "She will see you," the guard said. He did not sound happy about it. Taiho walked inside. The room was large and beautiful. Soft light came from hidden sources. Expensive art hung on the walls. In the center of the room stood a woman who made everything else look small. Yuna was tall, even for a Valari. 7 feet and 2 inches of elegance and pride. Her hair was long and white, falling past her shoulders like silk. Her dress was silver and blue, worth more than most people earned in a year. Her face was beautiful, but cold. She looked at Taiho the way someone might look at a bug on their floor. Behind her stood another Valari woman. Shorter, younger, with kind eyes. This was Hana, Yuna's personal attendant. She looked at Taiho with curiosity rather than disgust. "So," Yuna said. Her voice was like ice. "You are the protector my father sent." "Yes, Lady Yuna. My name is Taiho." Yuna walked closer. She circled around him slowly, looking at him from all angles. Taiho stood still and let her look. He was used to this. "This is a joke," Yuna finally said. She turned to Hana. "My father is punishing me. That must be it. I asked for a Torvuk warrior. Those reptile soldiers are 8 feet tall. They can tear a man apart with their bare hands. And instead, he sends me this." She pointed at Taiho like he was a piece of furniture she did not like. "A human. A tiny human who barely reaches my chest. What are you supposed to protect me from? Small insects?" Her attendant Hana looked embarrassed. "My lady, perhaps we should give him a chance. The guild would not send someone without skill." "Skill?" Yuna laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Look at him, Hana. I have seen children bigger than him. The black-tide mercenaries are threatening my life. They are killers, monsters, and this little man is supposed to stop them?" She stepped very close to Taiho now. She towered over him. Most people would feel small and afraid in this position. Taiho simply looked up at her with calm eyes. "You are too small to be my protector," Yuna said slowly, making sure he understood each word. "Go home, little human. Tell my father to send someone real. Someone who might actually scare our enemies." Taiho did not move. He did not look angry or hurt. He had heard these words before, many times on many planets. They did not touch him anymore. "Lady Yuna," he said quietly, "I understand your concern, but your father hired me because of my record. 37 protection assignments. 37 clients who are still alive. I have faced the Torvik warriors you admire so much. I have faced worse." Yuna raised one elegant eyebrow. "And I should believe this? A human defeating Torvik? You do not have to believe anything. You just have to let me do my job." "Your job?" Yuna shook her head. "Your job is to stand there and look useless while real threats circle around us. The Black Tide killed a senator last month. They destroyed an entire trading ship with everyone on board. And you think you can stop them?" "I think I can keep you alive," Taiho said. "That is all that matters." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. There was something in his eyes that made her pause. Something hard and certain. But she pushed the feeling aside. Her culture had taught her one simple truth her whole life. Size meant strength. Size meant power. This human had neither. "Fine," she said at last. "Stay if you want. But do not get in my way. And do not expect me to treat you like a real protector. You are a joke my father has played on me, nothing more." She turned and walked away. Her silver dress flowing behind her. Hannah gave Taiho a small, apologetic smile before following her lady. Taiho stood alone in the beautiful room. He looked around slowly, noting the windows, the doors, the angles of sight. He was already working, already planning. Outside, somewhere on this station, the Black Tide mercenaries were planning too. They wanted Yuna. They would come for her soon. And when they did, they would find a small human standing in their way. They would laugh, just like everyone else. Taiho was counting on it. The galaxy was a big place, filled with many species. Taiho had learned this truth in his first year away from Earth. He had learned another truth too. In this big galaxy, humans were small, very small. Most intelligent species in the known universe had evolved as large creatures. The Valari averaged 7 feet tall. The Torvak reptiles stood at 8 feet with scales hard as armor. The Grundar were massive beings of rock and muscle, some reaching 10 feet or more. Even the peaceful Marani traders were 6 feet tall with 4 arms each. And then there were humans. Small, soft, no claws, no scales, no natural armor. Most aliens looked at humans and saw weakness. They saw prey. This was the galaxy Taiho lived in. A galaxy of giants who thought size was everything. That night, Taiho sat in the small room he had been given. It was a servant's room, far from Yuna's luxurious quarters. He did not mind. He had slept in worse places. Much worse. He spent hours studying the station's layout on his device. Every corridor, every exit, every place where an ambush might happen. He memorized it all. This was his way. Preparation was survival. Meanwhile, in her own chambers, Yuna was talking with Hana. "Can you believe my father?" Yuna said. She was sitting at her mirror, brushing her long white hair. "A human. He sent me a human protector." Hana stood nearby, folding clothes. "My lady, the Protectors Guild is very respected. They would not send someone without reason." "Reason?" Yuna put down her brush. "The only reason is to insult me. My father is angry because I refused to marry that awful Lord Doyun. This is his revenge." Perhaps the human is more capable than he appears. Yuna laughed. Hannah, you are too kind. You see the best in everyone. But I have eyes. I saw that little man. The black-tide mercenaries would break him like a toy. Captain Duran alone is 3 times his size. She stood up and walked to her window. Outside, the station's lights glittered like stars. Somewhere out there, her enemies were waiting. I asked for a Torvok warrior, Yuna continued. Do you know why? Because when enemies see a Torvik, they feel fear. They think twice before attacking. But when they see a human, they will laugh. They will attack without hesitation. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I have heard stories about humans, my lady. Stories? Yes, strange stories. They say humans are different from other species. They say humans are dangerous in ways we do not understand. Yuna turned around with a mocking smile. Dangerous? Those little creatures? Hannah, you have been reading too many silly adventure dailies. Perhaps, Hannah admitted. But the stories say humans survived on a very harsh world. Their planet was filled with predators much larger than them. Creatures with teeth and claws and poison. Yet humans did not die out. They survived. They conquered their world. Many species conquered their worlds. Yes, but humans did it without natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor, just their minds and their hands. The stories say they learned to fight in special ways. Ways that let small bodies defeat large ones. Yuna waved her hand dismissively. Stories for children. In the real world, size wins. Strength wins. A Torvak warrior could crush 10 humans without trying. Hannah did not argue further, but she thought about the human's eyes. There had been something in them, something calm and cold, like deep water hiding sharp rocks beneath. The next morning, Taiho was waiting outside Yuna's door when she emerged. He had been there since before sunrise. Yuna walked past him without a word. He followed at a respectful distance. She had meetings that day. Important business for her father's trading company. Taiho followed her through the station, always watching, always silent. Yuna tried to ignore him, but she felt his presence like a shadow. During a break between meetings, she finally spoke to him. Why do you do this work? She asked. Being a protector. A bodyguard. It seems like a strange job for a human. Taiho considered the question. It is what I am good at. Good at protecting people? Or good at fighting? Both. Yuna crossed her arms. You truly believe you can fight? Against species twice your size? Size is not everything, Lady Yuna. That is easy to say. Harder to prove. Taiho nodded slowly. You were right. Words mean nothing. Only actions matter. You will see, when the time comes. When the time comes, you will probably hide behind me, Yuna said coldly. But even as she said it, she noticed something. The way Taiho stood. The way his eyes moved constantly, checking every person who walked nearby. The way his body was always balanced, always ready. He stood like a soldier. No, not just a soldier. Like a predator wearing human skin. The thought surprised her. She pushed it away. That afternoon, they passed through a crowded market area. Taiho suddenly moved closer to Yuna. His hand touched her arm gently, guiding her to change direction. What are you doing? She demanded. There are 3 men following us, Taiho said quietly. They have been behind us for 10 minutes. We are changing our path. Yuna looked back but saw only crowds. I do not see anyone. You are not trained to see them. I am. Please trust me, Lady Yuna. Just this once. Something in his voice made her listen. They took a different route back to her residence. The 3 men did not follow into the new area. Too many security cameras there. That night, Yuna thought about what had happened. She had not seen anyone suspicious. But somehow, Taiho had known. Somehow, that small, quiet human had spotted danger that she had missed completely. Maybe there was more to him than she thought. Maybe the stories Hana mentioned were not just children's tales, or maybe she was being foolish, putting faith in a creature who weighed half as much as her smallest guard. She fell asleep with these thoughts spinning in her head. Outside her window, the station lights glittered, and somewhere in the darkness, enemies were gathering. Taiho did not sleep that night. He sat in his small room, eyes open, listening. He could feel something coming. Years of training had given him instincts that went beyond normal senses. The black tide was getting ready to move. He could feel it in his bones. Soon, Lady Yuna would see what humans were truly capable of. Soon, everyone would see. Taiho checked his hands. They were steady. They were always steady. He was ready. 3 days passed without incident. Yuna began to relax. Maybe the threats were just words. Maybe the black tide had decided she was not worth the trouble. She started to believe she was safe. Taiho knew better. He had seen this pattern before. The calm before the storm. Predators were patient. They watched and waited for the perfect moment to strike. The black tide was watching. He could feel their eyes on them wherever they went. On the 4th day, there was a diplomatic gala. All the important families of the station would attend. Yuna had to be there. Her absence would show weakness, and in this world, weakness invited attack. She spent hours preparing. Her dress was deep blue, like a midnight ocean. Diamonds sparkled in her white hair. When she emerged from her chambers, even Taiho paused for a moment. She was truly beautiful. Well? Yuna said, noticing his look. Do I meet your approval, little protector? You look like a target, Taiho said honestly. Every eye will be on you. Yuna smiled coldly. That is the point. I am the daughter of Lord Minho. I will not hide like a scared animal. They traveled to the gala in a private transport. The venue was a massive hall with crystal walls and floors that reflected light like mirrors. Hundreds of guests filled the space. Valari nobles, Torvik diplomats, wealthy merchants from a dozen species. Music played softly. Servants moved through the crowd carrying drinks and food. At the entrance, Yuna turned to Taiho. You cannot come inside with me. Taiho frowned. Lady Yuna, my job is to stay close to you. Your job is to protect me without embarrassing me. Look around. Do you see any other bodyguards inside? No. They wait outside with the servants. That is proper protocol. She looked down at him with her cold silver eyes. Besides, what protection could you offer in there? If someone attacks me in a room full of nobles, my reputation would be ruined anyway. I would rather die. Taiho did not argue. He had learned that arguing with Yuna was pointless. She was proud and stubborn. These traits would get her killed someday, but not today if he could help it. I will wait outside, he said. But if anything seems wrong, leave immediately. Yuna laughed. What could go wrong at a party? She walked inside without looking back. Taiho found a position near the entrance where he could watch the door. Other bodyguards stood nearby. A few Torvik warriors. Some Grundar giants. They looked at Taiho with confusion and amusement. A human protector? What a strange joke. Inside the gala, Yuna moved through the crowd like a queen. She smiled and talked with other nobles. She pretended everything was normal. But inside, she felt nervous. The threats from the black tide were always in the back of her mind. After an hour, a tall Valari man approached her. He was handsome, but in a cruel way. His smile did not reach his eyes. Lady Yuna, he said. You look wonderful tonight. Lord Doyan. Yuna's voice was polite but cold. This was the man her father had wanted her to marry. She had refused. There was something dark about him that she did not trust. I heard about your troubles with the Black Tide, Do-hyun said, stepping closer. Such a terrible situation. Those mercenaries are very dangerous. I am handling it. Are you? I heard your father sent you a human protector. Do-hyun laughed softly. A human? How amusing. I said, my protection is not your concern. But it is my concern, dear Yuna. Do-hyun's voice dropped lower. You see, I care about you. I want you safe. And you would be very safe as my wife. The Black Tide would never touch someone under my protection. Yuna felt ice in her stomach. There was meaning behind his words. A threat hidden in kindness. Are you saying you have connections with the Black Tide? She asked carefully. Do-hyun smiled. I am saying that in this galaxy, a woman alone is vulnerable. Your father cannot protect you forever. His stubbornness may cost you dearly, but I can offer you safety. All you have to do is accept my proposal. I would rather die. The words came out before Yuna could stop them. Do-hyun's smile disappeared. For just a moment, she saw the monster beneath his handsome face. Cold rage flickered in his eyes. Be careful what you wish for, Lady Yuna, he said softly. The galaxy can be very dangerous for beautiful women who refuse good offers. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Yuna's hands were shaking. She suddenly wanted to leave. She pushed through the guests toward the exit. Outside, Taiho saw her coming. He noticed immediately that something was wrong. Her face was pale. Her movements were rushed. He fell into step beside her without a word. They entered their transport and began the journey back to her residence. The transport glided through the station's lower corridors. These paths were faster but darker. Less populated. What happened? Taiho asked. Nothing. A conversation I did not enjoy. Taiho watched her face. She was scared. Something had frightened her badly. Before he could ask more questions, the transport suddenly stopped. What is wrong? Yuna demanded. The driver, a nervous Volari man, pointed ahead. There is something blocking the path, my lady. Taiho looked through the front window. 3 figures stood in the corridor ahead. They were large, wearing dark armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. In their hands, they held weapons. Go back, Taiho said immediately. Turn around now. The driver tried, but more figures appeared behind them. They were trapped. Stay in the vehicle, Taiho said to Yuna. His voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm. What are you going to do? Yuna's voice was high with fear. Taiho opened the door and stepped out. The 3 figures ahead laughed when they saw him. One of them, the largest, stepped forward. This is the protector? He said. This little thing? The Black Tide sends its regards. Human. Step aside, and we will let you live. We only want the woman. Taiho did not step aside. He walked toward them. Last warning, the mercenary said. Raising his weapon, Taiho moved. What happened next took only 4 seconds. But to Yuna, watching from the transport, it seemed to happen in slow motion. The small human became a blur. He ducked under the first mercenary's arm and struck his throat. Before the big alien could fall, Taiho was already spinning toward the second one. A kick to the knee. An elbow to the face. The crack of bone breaking. The third mercenary tried to grab him, but Taiho moved like smoke. He twisted the alien's wrist until it snapped, then slammed his palm into the creature's temple. 4 seconds. 3 mercenaries on the ground. 2 unconscious. 1 screaming and holding his shattered wrist. The mercenaries behind the transport saw what happened. They hesitated. That hesitation cost them. Taiho was already running toward them. 2 more fell before they could react. The last one turned and ran into the darkness. Taiho stood in the corridor, surrounded by groaning bodies. He was not even breathing hard. His gray jacket was not even wrinkled. The transport door opened slowly. Yuna stepped out. Her legs felt weak. Her mind could not understand what she had just seen. "What are you?" she whispered. Taeho checked the corridor ahead, looking for more threats. Finding none, he turned to look at her. His eyes were calm and cold. The eyes of a predator. "Your protector," he said simply. "Stay close. We need to move." He started walking. After a moment, Yuna followed. Her view of the galaxy had just changed forever. The small human walking ahead of her was not what she had thought. He was not weak. He was not helpless. He was something else entirely. Something her people had never seen before. Something dangerous. The next morning, Yuna could not stop thinking about what she had seen. She sat in her chambers, staring at nothing. The images played over and over in her mind. 3 large mercenaries. 4 seconds. All of them down. How was it possible? She had grown up believing one simple truth. Bigger meant stronger. It was the foundation of Velari culture. Their warriors were the tallest and most powerful. Their leaders were giants among giants. Size was honor. Size was strength. But last night, a tiny human had destroyed that belief in 4 seconds. Hannah brought her morning tea. She noticed her lady's troubled expression. "You did not sleep well, my lady?" "I did not sleep at all." Yuna took the tea, but did not drink it. "Hannah, I need you to find something for me. I need information about humans. Everything. Their history, their world, their abilities. I need to understand." Hannah bowed. "Of course, my lady. I will search the archives." For the next several hours, Yuna read everything Hannah could find. Most of it was dry academic material. Population statistics, trade agreements, diplomatic records. But hidden among the boring documents, she found something else. Something fascinating and terrifying. Earth was a death world. That was the official classification. A planet so dangerous that survival itself was remarkable. The reports described a world of extreme temperatures, burning deserts and frozen wastelands, oceans that could swallow continents, weather systems that destroyed entire regions. But the weather was not the worst part. The creatures were. Yuna read about Earth's predators with growing disbelief. Giant reptiles with teeth like knives. Massive furry beasts with claws that could tear through metal. Poisonous creatures that killed with a single touch. Flying hunters that could snatch prey from the ground. And among all these monsters, humans had survived. Small, weak, soft humans. No claws, no fangs. No armor. Just pink skin and fragile bones. "This is impossible," Yuna whispered. "How did they live?" She kept reading. The answer slowly became clear. Humans did not survive by being stronger. They survived by being smarter. They made weapons from stone and wood. They worked together in groups. They studied their enemies and found weaknesses. They learned to fight in ways that used their opponent's strength against them. One document caught her attention. It was about something called martial arts. Fighting systems developed over thousands of years. Ways to turn a small body into a deadly weapon. Pressure points that could paralyze with a touch. Joint locks that could break bones without effort. Strikes that could stop a heart. Yuna remembered Taiho's movements from last night. The speed. The precision. Every strike had hit exactly the right spot. He had not wasted a single motion. It was almost like a dance, but a dance of death. She found more stories. Accounts from other species who had underestimated humans. A Torvak warrior who had challenged a human to combat and lost in seconds. A Grundar mercenary who had tried to intimidate a human trader and ended up in the hospital for 3 months. Again and again, the same pattern. Large beings laughed at small humans. Then large beings fell. There was even a saying that had spread through certain parts of the galaxy. Never corner a human. They do not know how to surrender. Yuna put down her reading device. Her hands were trembling slightly. She had mocked Taiho. She had called him a joke. She had treated him like he was nothing. And all that time, she had been wrong. So completely wrong. That afternoon, she found Taiho in his usual position outside her chambers. He was standing still, watching the corridor. Always watching. She had never noticed before how his eyes moved constantly, checking every shadow, every corner, every potential threat. "May I speak with you?" she asked. Taiho looked at her with slight surprise. It was the first time she had spoken to him politely. "Of course, Lady Yuna." She led him into a small sitting room. They stood facing each other. Yuna, tall and elegant. Taiho, small and plain. But somehow, Yuna did not feel like the bigger person anymore. "I read about your planet today," she said. "About Earth, I see. Your world sounds terrible. Monsters everywhere. Death waiting around every corner. How did your people survive?" Taiho considered the question. "We adapted. We learned. We refused to die. The documents mentioned something called martial arts. Fighting techniques that let smaller people defeat larger enemies. Is that what you used last night?" "Partly. I trained in several styles on Earth. Then I modified them for fighting alien species. Different bodies have different weaknesses." Aline leaned forward slightly. How? How did you beat those mercenaries so quickly? They were twice your size. They had armor and weapons. Size means nothing if you know where to strike." Taiho held up his hand. "Every living creature has weak points. Joints that bend wrong. Nerves that cause pain. Arteries that carry blood to the brain. I spent years learning where those points are in dozens of species. So when you hit them, I hit exactly the right places. A strike to a nerve cluster causes paralysis. A strike to certain arteries causes unconsciousness. A strike to the throat stops breathing." His voice was calm, like he was discussing the weather. "It does not matter how big an enemy is. We all have bodies. Bodies can be broken." Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. This small man was not just a fighter. He was a scientist of violence. A master of destruction. "Why did you become a protector?" she asked. For the first time, something like emotion flickered in Taiho's eyes. "I was a soldier once. Special forces. I did things I am not proud of. Now I try to save lives instead of taking them. It does not balance the scales, but it is something." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said something she had never expected to say. "I am sorry." Taiho blinked. "Sorry for what?" "For how I treated you? For calling you a joke? For laughing at you?" Yuna looked down, ashamed. "My whole life, I was taught that size equals strength. That big is better. I looked at you and saw weakness. I was blind." "You were not blind," Taiho said. "You were normal. Most species think the same way. Humans are used to being underestimated. Does it not bother you? Being dismissed? Being mocked?" A small smile touched Taiho's lips. It was the first smile Yuna had ever seen from him. "Being underestimated is useful," he said. "Enemies do not fear what they do not respect. They make mistakes. They leave openings. By the time they realize the truth, it is too late." Yuna studied him with new eyes. She saw the quiet confidence now, the absolute certainty. This man had walked among giants his whole life. He had been mocked and dismissed and ignored. And he had used that invisibility like a weapon. "I will not underestimate you again," she said finally. Taiho nodded. Thank you, Lady Yuna, but the real test has not come yet. The Black Tide will not send 3 mercenaries next time. They will send many more. Are you worried? Taiho's smile faded. His eyes grew cold and distant. No, he said. I am ready. Yuna believed him. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt something she had not expected. Hope. 2 days later, the message came. It arrived on a private channel, delivered directly to Lord Mingho, Yuna's father. The words were simple and terrifying. Deliver Yuna to the old cargo district within 48 hours, or the Black Tide would burn his entire fleet. Ships, crews, everything. Thousands of lives destroyed. Lord Ninho contacted his daughter immediately. His face on the screen looked tired and afraid. Yuna, you must leave the station. Go somewhere far away. Hide until this is over. Father, if I run, they will hurt you instead. They will destroy everything. I do not care about ships or money. I care about you. Yuna felt tears in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She was her father's daughter. She would not show weakness. I am not running, she said firmly. My protector will keep me safe. Her father's face twisted with doubt. The human? Yuna, please. I should never have sent him. It was a mistake. Let me hire a proper army instead. It was not a mistake, father. You will see. She ended the call before he could argue more. The next 24 hours passed slowly. Yuna stayed in her residence. Taiho stayed nearby, quiet and watchful as always. Hannah tried to keep busy, but fear made her clumsy. She dropped things. She jumped at small sounds. On the second night, Taiho suddenly stood up from his chair. He moved to the window and looked out into the darkness. They are coming, he said. Yuna's heart began to pound. How do you know? The guards outside have stopped moving? Either they were paid off or they were eliminated. Either way, we have company. He turned to face the room. His movements were calm and deliberate. No fear. No hesitation. Hannah, take Lady Yuna to the back room. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me. What about you? Yuna demanded. I will be here. Taiho, if there are too many of them. He looked at her with those cold, steady eyes. There are never too many. Hannah grabbed Yuna's arm and pulled her toward the back room. Yuna wanted to resist, wanted to stay and fight somehow, but she knew she would only be in the way. She let Hannah guide her through the door. The lock clicked behind them. They were alone in darkness, listening. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Yuna heard the main door crash open. Heavy footsteps thundered into her home. Voices shouted commands. Many voices. Too many. Spread out. Find the woman. Kill anyone who resists. Through a crack in the door, Yuna could see shadows moving in the main room. Large shadows. She counted quickly. 5, 6, 7, 8 massive figures, spreading through her residence. 8 against 1. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Her small protector was going to die, and it was her fault for believing in impossible things. Then she saw Taiho step into the center of the room. He looked so small, so fragile. The mercenaries were giants compared to him. Each one wore heavy armor and carried weapons. Their leader was the biggest of all. A scarred monster named Brock, with arms thick as tree trunks and a face like cracked stone. Brock saw Taiho and laughed. The sound was ugly and confident. This is the protector? He bellowed. This tiny thing? The Black Tide sends 8 of our best, and this is what guards the Volari princess. The other mercenaries laughed too. They began to form a circle around Taiho. 8 giants surrounding one small man. Step aside, little human, Brock said. We have no fight with you. Give us the woman and you can walk away. We might even let you live. Taiho did not move. He stood perfectly still in the center of the circle. His arms hung loose at his sides. His breathing was slow and steady. "No," he said. Brock's smile faded. "No? Do you understand what is happening here, human? Do you see how many we are? How big we are? You cannot win this fight. You cannot even survive this fight. You are right about one thing," Taiho said quietly. "There will be no fight." Brock frowned. "What do you mean?" "A fight requires two sides with a chance of winning. This is not a fight." Taiho's eyes moved slowly around the circle, studying each mercenary, memorizing their positions, finding their weaknesses. "This is just me doing my job." For one heartbeat, nobody moved. The mercenaries looked at each other, confused by this strange little creature who did not seem to understand fear. Then Brock roared and charged. Taiho exploded into motion. What happened next lasted 8 seconds. 8 seconds that would become legend. 8 seconds that would change how the galaxy saw humans forever. Taiho did not fight like other species. He did not meet force with force. He flowed like water through the circle of giants. Where they were strong, he was not there. Where they swung their massive fists, he had already moved. The first mercenary fell before Brock had taken 3 steps. Taiho's hand shot out like a snake, striking a nerve cluster in the alien's neck. The giant's eyes rolled back. His body collapsed. The second mercenary swung a metal rod at Taiho's head. Taiho ducked under the swing and drove his elbow into the alien's knee joint. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the room. As the mercenary fell, Taiho's palm struck his temple. Unconscious before he hit the ground. 3 seconds gone. 2 mercenaries down. Taiho spun and leaped, using a fallen body as a platform. He flew toward the third mercenary and wrapped his legs around the giant's neck. A sharp twist. The mercenary's eyes went wide, then empty. He dropped like a stone. 4 mercenaries tried to grab Taiho at once. He moved between them like smoke. An open palm strike crushed one alien's windpipe. A precise kick shattered another's kneecap. A 2-finger strike to the eyes blinded the third. An elbow to the base of the skull dropped the fourth. 6 seconds. 7 mercenaries down. Only Brack remained. The scarred leader had stopped charging. He stood frozen, watching his elite warriors fall one after another. His mind could not understand what his eyes were seeing. This was impossible. This was wrong. This went against everything he knew about the universe. "What are you?" Brock whispered. His voice trembled with something he had never felt before. Fear. Taiho walked toward him. Slow, steady. His clothes were not even wrinkled. His breathing was not even heavy. He had just destroyed 7 trained killers in 6 seconds, and he looked like he had been taking a peaceful walk. "I am human," Taiho said. Brock raised his massive fists. "Stay back. I am Brock of the Black Tide. I have killed 100 enemies. I am not afraid of some tiny," Taiho moved. 3 precise strikes. Pressure points that Brock did not even know existed. The scarred giant's body went rigid. His arms fell to his sides. His legs stopped working. He crashed to his knees, then fell forward onto his face, paralyzed, not dead. Taiho could have killed him easily. But dead men cannot deliver messages. 8 seconds. 8 mercenaries. All down. Taiho stood in the center of the room, surrounded by groaning, unconscious bodies. He straightened his jacket and checked his hands. They were steady. They were always steady. The backroom door opened slowly. Yuna stepped out. Her face was pale. Her silver eyes were huge. She stared at the destruction around her, at the fallen giants, at the small man standing among them like death itself. "You?" She could barely speak. "You beat them all. 8 of them. In seconds." Taiho looked at her. For just a moment, something warm flickered in his cold eyes. "I told you," he said. "I am your protector." On the floor, Brock managed to turn his head. His eyes found Taiho. Terror filled them. "What? What are you?" he croaked. Taiho knelt beside him. He spoke quietly, making sure Brock could hear every word. "Go back to your Captain Garan. Tell him what happened here. Tell him that if he sends more men, more will fall. Tell him that this woman is under my protection. And tell him this truth that your people have forgotten." He leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Humans are not small. We are concentrated." He stood up and walked back to Yuna's side. Behind him, Brock lay shaking on the floor. The image of a tiny monster burned forever into his mind. The Black Tide had just learned a lesson that the galaxy would never forget. Never underestimate a human. The news spread fast through the station. Within hours, everyone was talking about what had happened at the residence of Lady Yuna. 8 Black Tide mercenaries had entered. 8 Black Tide mercenaries had been carried out on stretchers. And the one responsible was a human. A single small human dot. At first, no one believed it. The story seemed impossible. The Black Tide mercenaries were feared across 3 star systems. Their warriors were chosen from the largest, strongest fighters of a dozen species. The idea that one tiny human had defeated 8 of them in seconds seemed like a joke, but the evidence was undeniable. Security footage from nearby corridors showed the mercenaries entering Yuna's home healthy and confident. The same footage showed them being dragged out unconscious and broken. And standing in the doorway, watching them go, was a small figure in a gray jacket. The story changed that day. Not just for Yuna, but for everyone who heard it. In the medical center, Brock regained use of his limbs after several hours. The doctor said it was remarkable he was alive at all. The strikes he had received were precise enough to paralyze without killing. That level of control was almost impossible. Almost Brock refused to talk about what had happened. When other mercenaries asked him questions, he just stared at the wall with empty eyes. Something had broken inside him. Not his body, but his understanding of the universe. He had always believed that size meant power. That big creatures ruled and small creatures served. In 8 seconds, a tiny human had destroyed that belief forever. Back at Yuna's residence, repair workers fixed the damaged door. Extra security was added. But the biggest change was invisible. It was in the way people looked at Taiho now. The guards who had mocked him before could not meet his eyes. The servants who had laughed at his size now bowed deeply when he passed. Everyone had heard the story. Everyone knew what the small human was capable of. Yuna noticed the change, but she was more interested in understanding Taiho himself. In the days following the attack, she found herself seeking his company. She asked questions. He answered. Slowly, she began to understand. They sat together one evening in her private garden. Artificial stars twinkled overhead. The air smelled like flowers from a dozen worlds. It was peaceful here, safe, at least for now. How did you learn to fight like that? Yuna asked. Taiho was quiet for a moment. I started training when I was 6 years old. On Earth, my family was poor. We lived in a dangerous area. Fighting was not a choice. It was survival. 6 years old, Yuna repeated. That is so young. Humans learn fast when we must. My first teacher was an old man who lived in our building. He taught me the basics of Taekwondo. How to kick. How to move. How to use my small body against bigger opponents. And after that, I trained with anyone who would teach me. Boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I studied the human body until I knew every weakness, every pressure point, every way to cause pain or unconsciousness or death. Yuna shivered at his casual tone. And then you became a soldier. Yes, special forces. I was sent to the worst places, given the hardest missions. For 10 years, I fought in wars that most people never heard about. I killed many enemies. Too many. His voice grew distant. I was good at it. Too good. Eventually, I had to stop. The killing was eating my soul. So you became a protector instead. Yes, I decided to use my skills to save lives instead of taking them. It does not erase what I did, but it helps. A little. Yuna looked at him differently now. This small man carried heavy weights inside. Pain and guilt and dark memories. Yet he kept going. He kept fighting. Not for himself, but for others. May I ask you something personal? She said. Of course. Do you ever feel afraid? When you face enemies bigger than yourself? When the odds are against you? Taiho thought about the question. Fear is natural. Even humans feel it. But fear can be controlled. Used. When I face an enemy, I do not think about their size or their strength. I think about their weaknesses. I think about exactly how I will defeat them. Fear becomes fuel. That sounds very human. For the first time, Taiho smiled. A real smile, not just a flicker. It transformed his face, making him look younger and softer. We had to be this way, he said. Our planet gave us no choice. Earth was filled with creatures that could crush us, eat us, poison us. We were never the apex predators. We were prey that refused to die. Prey that refused to die, Yuna repeated. She liked that phrase. It captured something essential about humanity. Your people are remarkable, Taiho. Your people are remarkable too, Lady Yuna. You built an empire among the stars. You created beautiful art and technology. Every species has its strengths. But your species has something different. Something the rest of us do not understand. You call it determination, stubbornness, the refusal to give up even when everything says you should. She paused. I saw it in your eyes when you faced those mercenaries. You were not worried about losing. You were not even considering the possibility. Taiho nodded slowly. In human culture, we had a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight. It is the size of the fight in the dog. Do you understand? Yuna thought about it. You mean that spirit matters more than body? Exactly. A human with enough determination can overcome any obstacle, any enemy, any challenge. We have proven this throughout our history. Humans have climbed the highest mountains, crossed the deepest oceans, walked on our moon, and we did all of it with small, fragile bodies that were never designed for greatness. Yuna felt something stirring in her chest, admiration, respect, and perhaps something more. Something warmer. Taiho, she said softly, after this is over, after the black tide is gone and my family is safe, what will you do? I will find another assignment. Another person who needs protection. Will you consider staying? Here? With me? Taiho looked at her. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. The tall, elegant Velari princess and the small, deadly human protector. Two beings from different worlds. Different species. Different everything. I do not stay in one place for long, Taiho finally said. It is not my way. Yuna felt disappointment, but she understood. Then promise me something? What? Promise that when you leave, you will remember me. Remember that one Velari woman saw your worth. That I respect you. Not despite your size, but because of who you are. Taiho's expression softened. I will remember, Lady Yuna. I always remember the good ones. They sat together in the garden as artificial stars slowly moved overhead. Peace surrounded them. But both knew it would not last. The black tide was still out there. Captain Garan would not accept this humiliation. He would come himself. And when he did, The final test would begin. But for now, in this quiet moment, there was only understanding. Two souls from different worlds, connected by something neither could name. Respect, perhaps, or maybe something deeper. Captain Garan was not a patient man. When Brock returned with news of the failure, Garan did not yell or threaten. He simply listened. Then he killed Brock with his own hands. The message to his remaining mercenaries was clear. Failure would not be tolerated. For 3 days, Garan prepared. He gathered his best fighters. 30 mercenaries, handpicked from every corner of the Black Tide organization. Warriors who had conquered planets. Killers who feared nothing. An army of giants stood, and leading them personally was Garan himself. He was massive, even by the standards of his species. Nearly 9 feet tall, arms like steel beams, a face covered in scars from 100 battles. He had killed over 500 enemies in his lifetime. He had never lost a fight. A tiny human had humiliated his organization. Duran would fix this mistake personally. They came on the 4th night. Taeho knew they were coming. He had been tracking movement patterns in the station for days. Unusual gatherings. Weapons being transported. He saw the signs and understood their meaning. The storm was arriving. He prepared accordingly. You should leave, he told Yuna. Go to the secure district. Hide with the station authorities. They cannot protect you forever, but they can buy time. Yuna shook her head. I'm not leaving you to face them alone. Lady Yuna, no. Her voice was firm. I have been running my whole life. Running from responsibility. Running from danger. Running from anything that scared me. But you showed me something different. You showed me that courage is not about having no fear. It is about facing fear anyway. Taeho studied her face. He saw determination there. Real determination. She had changed in the past weeks. Grown stronger. He respected that. Very well, he said. But stay behind me. No matter what happens. They made their stand in an old cargo bay. Taeho had chosen the location carefully. The ceiling was low, which limited the advantage of tall enemies. The floor was cluttered with crates and machinery, creating obstacles that favored speed over size. And there was only one main entrance. 30 mercenaries would not attack all at once. They would have to funnel through that entrance. And Taeho would be waiting. The mercenaries arrived at midnight station time. They spread out in the corridor outside, weapons ready. Garan stood at the front, massive and terrible. He looked through the entrance into the cargo bay and saw his target. Lady Yuna stood near the back wall. And in front of her, small and unimpressive, stood the human. Garan laughed. The sound echoed off metal walls. This is the creature who defeated my men? His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stones. This little animal? I have crushed insects larger than you, human. Taeho said nothing. He stood perfectly still, conserving energy, measuring distances, planning. Come out now, Lady Yuna, Garan continued. I promise to kill you quickly. Resist, and your death will take days. As for your pet human, I will deal with him myself. Yuna's voice rang out, surprising even herself with its steadiness. Taeho is not my pet. He is my protector, and you will not find him easy prey. Garan's scarred face twisted with amusement. Prey, that is exactly what he is. What all humans are. Small, weak creatures who have forgotten their place in the galaxy. Then come and put me in my place, Taeho said quietly. If you can. Something about his tone stopped Garan's laughter. There was no fear in the human's voice. No hesitation. Just calm certainty. It was unsettling, but Garan was not a being who felt fear. He gestured to his men. Take them. Kill the human. The woman comes with me alive. The mercenaries surged forward through the entrance, and the battle began. Taiho moved like something not quite human. He used the cargo bay's layout perfectly. When mercenaries tried to surround him, he slipped between crates. When they swung their weapons, he was already somewhere else. He fought without stopping, without slowing. Every strike found its target. Every movement had purpose. Bodies began to pile up at the entrance. The first 10 mercenaries fell in 30 seconds. They never even touched him. Taiho danced through them like smoke, dropping giants with precise strikes. A kick to a knee, an elbow to a throat, fingers to the eyes. He knew exactly where each species was vulnerable, and he exploited those weaknesses without mercy. The next 10 lasted almost a minute. They learned from watching their comrades fall. They attacked in coordinated groups, trying to corner the human. But Taiho used the environment against them. He knocked crates into their paths. He swung from overhead pipes to avoid grasping hands. He turned every obstacle into a weapon. When 20 mercenaries lay groaning on the ground, the remaining 10 hesitated. They were supposed to be elite fighters, the best of the Black Tide, and a single human was destroying them like they were children. Cowards. Garan roared. He's one human. Attack. The last 10 charged together. Taiho met them head on. There was no more dancing, no more strategy, just pure violence. He grabbed one mercenary's arm and broke it at the elbow. He drove his head into another's stomach, then brought his knee up into the falling face. He caught a swinging club, redirected it into its owner's skull. Every move flowed into the next. A symphony of destruction. 3 minutes. 30 mercenaries. All down. Taiho stood in the center of the cargo bay, surrounded by unconscious and groaning bodies. His jacket was torn. Blood trickled from a cut on his cheek. His breathing was heavy now, but his eyes were sharp. His stance was ready. He looked at the entrance. Garan stood alone. The massive captain had watched his entire force fall. 30 of his best warriors, defeated by a creature half their size. His mind could not accept what his eyes had shown him. This went against everything he knew, everything he believed. Impossible, Garan whispered. Nothing is impossible, Taiho replied. You just did not believe it could happen. Rage replaced confusion in Garan's eyes. He let out a roar that shook the walls and charged. 9 feet of pure fury, moving faster than something that size should be able to move. Taiho did not retreat. He ran forward to meet the giant. They collided in the center of the cargo bay. Garan was strong. Stronger than anything Taiho had ever faced. His arms were like steel. His grip could crush bone. He grabbed for the human, trying to catch him, trying to squeeze the life out of him. But Taiho was not there to be caught. He moved around the giant like water around a rock. He struck at tendons, at nerve clusters, at pressure points that Garan did not even know existed. The fight lasted 30 seconds. Garan landed one blow, a backhand that sent Taiho flying into a pile of crates. But Taiho rolled with the impact and came up fighting. He drove his palm into Garan's knee. The joint collapsed. As the giant fell, Taiho leaped and delivered 3 precise strikes to his neck and head. Garan crashed to the floor, paralyzed, defeated. His eyes stared up at the low ceiling, filled with something he had never experienced before. Fear. Ho stood over him, breathing hard. Blood dripped from his face. His hands were shaking slightly, the first sign of exhaustion. How? Garan managed to speak through paralyzed lips. How did you beat us? All of us? Taiho knelt beside the fallen giant. His voice was quiet but clear. Because you looked at me and saw weakness. You saw my size and thought you knew what I was. But size is not everything, Captain. Humans learned this truth long ago. We learned to fight with our minds, not just our bodies. We learned to turn our enemy's strength into weakness. He stood up. Tell your organization this when you can move again. Lady Yuna is under my protection. If anyone comes for her, they will face me. And they will fall, just like you did. Station security arrived 10 minutes later. They found 31 black-tied mercenaries scattered across the cargo bay floor. They found Lady Yuna unharmed against the back wall. And they found a small human in a torn gray jacket, sitting quietly on a crate, waiting for them. The aftermath was complicated. Political matters. Legal proceedings. Yuna's father arrived with lawyers and security experts. The black-tied organization, humiliated and broken, retreated from the station forever. 3 weeks later, when everything was finally settled, Yuna found Taiho at the station's departure terminal. His bag was packed. His wounds had healed. He looked exactly as he had when she first met him. Small, plain, unassuming. You are leaving, she said. It was not a question. There is another assignment. Another person who needs protection. Yuna nodded slowly. She had known this would happen. Still, it hurt. Will I see you again? She asked. Taiho allowed himself a small smile. The same smile she had seen in the garden that night. If you need me, I will know. He started to walk away. Then he stopped and turned back. Lady Yuna, when you mocked me at our first meeting, you said I was too small to be your protector. Yuna felt shame warm her cheeks. I was foolish. I know better now. You were not foolish. You were normal. Most people see what I am and think they know what I can do. But you changed. You looked past the surface and saw the truth. His eyes were warm now, almost gentle. That is rare. That is special. Remember that. He turned and walked into the crowded terminal. Within moments, he had disappeared among the taller bodies. Just another small human, invisible in a galaxy of giants. But Yuna knew better now. And she would tell the story for the rest of her life. The story of a small protector who stood against an army. The story of a human who taught her that size meant nothing. The story that would spread through the galaxy and make people think twice before laughing at the small creatures from Earth.